Good morning, A3 fam. Welcome into Attacking Third alongside Christine Cupo and Jess McDonald. I'm Lisa Carlin. Huge episode today because we are headed overseas. Grab your passports, ladies. We're talking Americans abroad, plus all the questions that we get. We are doing a mailbag segment, and Lo LaBonta and McCall Zerboni jump on to chat a little bit about the weekend in NWSL, some results we saw, and the players that were playing with the chip on their shoulder. A whole lot to get into today, and I'm so happy to do it with you guys. If you're with us live on YouTube, good morning. Hey, hi, hello, what's up? Like this video, subscribe, and join the convo in the chat. It's always a good time in there, Christine. The chat is always popping off. I'm in there occasionally. Christine, you're always in there. You're
I
always in there.
know I get a lot of flack for being the cat typing meme because I make everything bounce, but I just get really excited to see the chat. I can't help it.
Well, I get excited to see you guys. Jess, what's up? How was your weekend?
Weekend was nuts. Did 3 NWSL games in the studio. So it was quite a whirlwind, but it was awesome overall. I love the experience I'm able to get, and it was like my first flight in a while for work, and I'm like, okay, mama's back. Let's do this,
Mama's back.
Mama's
It's
back.
so fun to hear you on the calls. I love that.
Thank
What
you.
about you, Lisa? You were a busy bee all weekend too.
Busy bee all weekend. Yeah, I was on the call too. I was in the booth for Sunday's game, Seattle Angel
It's just
City.
like, what day is it? I am Lisa Carlin.
No. And then I had a travel day from hell yesterday, but I'm back home finally, and it's good to be home. It's even better to be with both of you because we get to talk footy. We get to talk all of it, and we get to do it with everyone live on YouTube. If you don't know, now you know. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11 a.m. Eastern on YouTube. We go live and talk everything women's football. You can watch us on the Golazo Network and listen anywhere you get your podcast. But up first, grab your passports. Jess, you're jumping on another plane for work because we are going abroad.
Let's
talking
go.
Americans abroad because we are on the verge of a U.S. women's national team, an international window with the U.S. women's national team camp. And there were 6 players called into Emma Hayes' squad for these April friendlies that come from overseas. Lindsey Heaps at Lyon, Emily Fox at Arsenal, Lily Johannes at Ajax, Catarina Macario at Chelsea, and then Crystal Dunn and Corbin Albert at PSG. It's so fun to watch these players overseas. We get to take it in so much at Attacking Third, but now players who are fans who are just watching on the international stage, they now get to watch this. And one of the biggest topics in U.S. women's national team depth roster, Jess, is at the fullback position. Crystal Dunn called into this camp. She plays at PSG. Is this the best answer for Emma Hayes right now in the left fullback position, Crystal Dunn?
Honestly, when you talk experience and versatility, Crystal Dunn is it. She still got it. I don't think she has let off the pedal. She has brightened up her game since she's become a mom and as she's gotten older as well. But what is so fascinating to me about Crystal Dunn is that you can throw her into any position and she's going to dominate there regardless of, whatever position that she's playing. And so I do have to go with experience here, and Crystal Dunn is it right now, as my number one. And I love her game. She gets back. She's a good 1v1 defender. And what's the most miraculous thing about the way that she plays football is the fact that she gets into the final third. You need an outside back who's going to get in line and being able to whip balls in. She's able to combine. She's able to get into the inside pocket where the winger gets on the outside. Just her switch up is just, it's so amazing to watch. And, I think that people sleep on Crystal Dunn a little bit, but
They have been for years.
They have been. And look at the work that she's done. She just came off of winning an Olympic gold medal after becoming a mom, 2019 World Cup gold medalist. I mean, she's gotten Golden Boot, MVP in the NWSL. The woman can do it all, and she's still doing it, and she's still performing as well.
One of the most impressive things with Dunn right now is that heading over to PSG, right? I think it was a tough offseason for her, having to navigate not getting a lot of minutes and struggling at Gotham last year and deciding where she was going to go that is going to best suit her in her career. She lands at PSG, and we're seeing her, Christy, now play so much higher up the pitch. She's in more of an attacking role, which I think you could argue that there's elements that might hurt her at the international level, because you need to continue to have experience in the position that your coach wants you to play, which is the outside back role. But did you see her goal this past weekend? It was like a back
Yes.
heel. Holy
Yes.
cow, she can play everywhere.
Sauce.
She can do it all.
She can. And I think that Crystal Dunn is one of those players who it's champagne problems, right? Literally, her greatest strengths are also the things that ding her. It's that she's so good everywhere that you get to slot her where you need her. So sometimes you don't necessarily get that specialization in certain roles, whereas she's still bar none in any place you slot her better than most players globally. So I think it's just a matter of figuring out where she's needed most for a team. And I think that if you need her in the attack, she can be in the attack. We've seen that. If you need her playing in that left back role, she can play that. You want her to play wing back, she could do that too. I think it's just a matter of tempering both the age and youth, especially with the US national team, because I personally, I have a certain risk appetite, and I do like to see the kids high flying, but I need it to be anchored with some of the vets that can still call the shots, that have the composure that they can also learn from.
So should Crystal Dunn be concerned right now about her age? And I mean that in the opposite way, it sounds, because Casey Kruger.
That's it. Cancel Lisa. She's being ageist. I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
Casey Kruger came out and said that she had a long conversation with Emma Hayes, and Hayes basically told Kruger the team is going to move forward without you, presumably because of her age. At 34 years old, they're looking to have a little bit more youth in it. And there comes this shelf life and drop off that we did see most recently at the international level, where you have all these really experienced players with 150, 200 caps, and then these players with 5 caps. And Hayes is doing a lot to try to lessen that gap between the 200 cap players and the 5 cap players. It is, where does Dunn stand in this argument at 32 years old? Is there an element where she could be pushed out?
Man, see, look, this is where it gets so complicated, because at the end of the day, you know, we've all heard this quote: age ain't nothing but a number. As long as you're performing, Casey Kruger is still performing. So I can't even take any guesses as to why she's not getting called into camp. Let that have been Kelly O'Hara, one of the greatest outside backs, you know, in U.S. Women's National Team history. If she wasn't retired and if she didn't go through her injuries, she would be in camp right now. We're the same age. She'd be 37 years old. She would predominantly be in these camps. So it doesn't matter with age. Obviously, as you get older, injury is more of a risk, but Casey Kruger's not injured. She's still performing. Look at what she's doing.
She's not being called into camp, and
I know,
told
and
her
that's
we're
the
going to move
issue.
forward.
Yeah.
But why? Like, I would need a logical explanation, because she's one of my top players to put in that outside back position. She's right-footed, but she's been playing with her left foot for so many years. So you could throw her on the right, you could throw her on the left. And to me, and this is my opinion, in my opinion only, I think she's one of the best 1v1 defenders in the world. 1v1 defenders. When you're going at Casey Kruger, she was a pain in my butt playing against her, because she's fast, she's savvy, she's smart. You have to use every ability that you possibly have to play against this woman. And I don't care about age at this point, because she brings the experience and she can still play, and she's doing it. She's still doing it. So I don't know what Emma Hayes' explanation could possibly be, because at this point, age shouldn't even be an issue at the professional level.
You know what, Jess, I am actually interested in another opinion of yours. So I think what Emma Hayes has been doing is really very much so heavily weighting the future and what that looks like and longevity of this team. I think that in retrospect, your era of US Women's National Team, that legacy of success and excellence, from looking back at it, and you can feel free to disagree, it seemed like there wasn't a whole lot of room for anybody on the youth side to really infiltrate. Everybody was fairly a lock. Everyone was secured, and rightfully so, I think it was a different ilk of player, but also the chemistry that had been built
Mhm.
trophy over trophy. Do you think that that changes the dynamic going forward with that sudden cultural shift of the youth need to perform, we need to see what's going forward, whereas players like Casey Kruger do exist, are capable, but maybe omitted, whereas the past conversation might have been Casey Kruger versus another vet player that she's not getting slotted.
Yeah. Oh, good point. Um, Honestly, since there's no major tournaments within the next 2 years, this is a good time to hit that refresh button for Emma Hayes. But like I said before, if you have your experienced players who are still healthy, who are still going at it, who are still performing, I don't see an issue with that because I'm playing my experience over the young at this point. But with that being said, if this is what she wants to do, she is the head coach. And honestly, she knows what she's doing. And she's giving these young players a chance, which I absolutely do love still at the end of the day. So I get that she needs to prep for the World Cup, which is in 2027, to make sure that these young players are getting the experience in. So I think it's great at the end of the day, but I'm still getting if I'm the head coach, I'm bringing in the best of the best still into camp. But you have to sprinkle in a little bit of inexperience who can transition into, a major tournament like the World Cup and help prep them and get them more caps as well underneath their belt.
Perhaps Crystal Dunn also elevates herself in the comparison against Casey Kruger because of Dunn's versatility. She can play multiple positions. She has, and yes, Kruger can play outside back on either side and get forward and be a contributor, but Dunn does it more consistently. And perhaps that's what truly separates her. In getting players into camp and closing the gap, that front line is something that has been talked about a lot. Only one of Triple Espresso called into this camp in Trinity Rodman, Mallory Swanson, and Sophia Wilson. Not in this camp. Wilson is pregnant. She's on maternity leave, and Swanson with personal reasons. So I think this opens a door for a player like Catarina Macario, who is called back into the camp. She's got 6 goals, 2 assists with Chelsea so far this year, Christine. It is now the time for Catarina Macario to take the front line and make it her own. Make one of those 3 spots in the front line Macario's.
I mean, I think that's the name of the game, right? Like you need to take advantage of the opportunities where they present themselves. And sometimes it's unfortunately when one of your teammates is injured and you manage to slot in there. Kat has a lot of versatility. She's got a nose for goal. Um, she's really nice on the ball. She's a pleasure to watch, right? Like, and it's crime that we didn't have her for as long as we had. I want to see her back in the mix of things to see how the chemistry can flow, even, with players that are currently absent. Like, how does that work? Do we actually have the depth that we think we have in the attack? Because I'm pretty damn confident that we do. It's just a matter of, does this individual talent mesh together well? Are they going to complement each other? Do they know how to be unselfish and also selfish at the same time when they need be? But yeah, Kat is always going to be an asset in my opinion.
It's time for Kat to level up. I think this is the camp for her to do it, to put her stamp on this. Some other Americans abroad, Lindsey Heaps. She plays with Lyon in Champions League. She plays domestically, and she scores goals in just 21 matches. She has 12 goals, 7 assists this season, Jess. She has been electric in their front line and does this pretty consistently with Lyon. However, she doesn't produce like this at the international level. Where's the disconnect for Lindsey Heaps?
Well, truth be told, playing at the international level and playing domestically for your pro team, I mean, they're 2 completely different types of soccer, having to adjust to the way like a Japan or a Brazilian team plays who has, just purely that breed of people in it and their style of play and having to adjust to that in comparison to being a professional. You have different types of internationals, different types of personalities who play together. But with that being said, if you want to look at the French league, I mean, there's such a huge gap between the top of the table to the bottom of the table. I mean, most of us would be scoring and having that many assists if I'm with the best team playing against these lower tier teams. So we have to look at competition in France as well, and her role being able to get up high and obviously scoring these golazos, whereas she has to play a little more reserved with the U.S. Women's National Team. We do see her getting into the final third a lot. She's very good in the air, probably one of the best that I've ever seen. But at the end of the day, competition in the French league isn't top tier the way it is at the international level. And so that's where the competition differentiates there.
I mean, Heaps right now is eclipsing her own personal best, but it's also, due to the league. But I think we also need to tip the cap a little bit to Big Joe Montemuro, who also had coached Arsenal and Juve. He is a super attack-minded coach, will get the best out of players, especially in his early seasons when he takes over a team. And I think we're seeing a little bit of his impact. He likes these sort of like pressure point inflections and triggers and just press, attack, attack, attack. And I think that Lindsey plays really, really well under him. Would I love to see her carry that over to the US? Absolutely. Are they going to be playing the same style? No.
Right. The questions asked of Heaps at the international level and with the U.S. team are very different than what's asked of her at Lyon. I mean, she's more of the playmaker with the international team, and domestically, she is a goal scorer for them, right? It is her job to contribute creatively and get on the board for Lyon. We have to stick in Europe, though, Christine, because in the Super League Arsenal, we have seen them play. And Jenna Nighswonger made this big change in the offseason to go from Gotham over to Arsenal. But when we think about her production, she really hasn't been playing that many games with Arsenal.
No.
What's happening? She's one start in just 3 appearances. Why can't she get on the pitch for Arsenal?
So I think that we need to level set expectations a little bit here. I think that the fanfare and just fervor, which comes with a player signing to a big club in Europe, followed her. And I think that the expectation was likened a little bit to Emily Fox's move, who is a mainstay for Arsenal. She plays every single game, is a massive contributor, is vital to their success. Whereas that left back role, she was always going to have to do battle with Katie McCabe. And if not Katie McCabe, then you want to try to play like that left center back role. It's Catley. We know that Nighswonger can play a little bit further up the pitch. Then you're going to have to go head to head with Mariona Caldente or Catlin Ford. I think that there isn't a place for her, and I think that she probably understood that coming in, and that this was going to be a brutal experience, that she was going to have to also learn a new style, new play, how to get this chemistry with her teammates. And right now we're looking at her having played 3 games, 1 start, and the 1 start is because McCabe was suspended. So I hope that there's a little bit of a reality check here.
Right. So when players make big moves, leaving a league, going over to play in Europe in Champions League, there's a lot of different reasons for that. But pretty sure it's safe to say it's because you also want to grow your game and get better as a player to continue to be called into camps. She's not called into this camp. In hindsight, is this maybe not the best decision for Nighswonger to go to Arsenal, considering she's not getting playing time and now she's not called into this U.S. camp?
I think when you assume a certain risk as a player, you know that there could be the downside of it, right? Like, you want to try to expand your game. That's not always going to be an instant impact. That could be a long-term thing. That could mean that you're missing out on a camp that you very much had previously been part of. Does it suck? Yes. But is it realistic? Yeah, sure. I mean, when you look at the pool there right now that Emma Hayes is trying to cultivate, we already know what attributes Nighswonger has, right? We know that she's not necessarily the greatest defender, that she's great in that giddy up the flank, crossing balls into the box, making attacking contributions. But if you're not playing with a side that values that or uses that integral to their system, yeah, you're going to be sitting.
It's also very interesting because Hayes has talked specifically about those outside back positions. And unfortunately, this past weekend, we had a terrible injury to center back, U.S. Women's National Team and Gotham player Tierna Davidson. She went down at the end of the first half in Gotham's match this weekend. So Hayes had the opportunity to bring up another player, and she chose to bring up another outside back. Again, it's not Jenna Nighswonger, though. it's not Nighswonger being called into camp. This time it's Giselle Thompson. So she jumps from the U23 squad to the senior national team. It's a little bit of a domino effect. And now Olivia Moultrie, the Portland Thorns midfielder, got called up to the U23 squad to replace Giselle Thompson. Jess, is this the swap that you wanted to see for Hayes to make, this little conveyor belt of players moving up?
Absolutely. I think with Nighswonger kind of lacking that playing time for Arsenal, I mean, I think that is her biggest issue. Emma Hayes wants to see her performing and on the pitch, and she's not doing that. And so with that being said, Giselle Thompson, I mean, she's in the middle of her season for Angel City FC. She's performing. She's doing really well right now. And she has a little bit of experience with the full team. So I think this is very much so deserved for this young outside back. And she's able to learn and get some more touches and more of a feeling to be able to play with the full team at this point. And as far as Olivia Moultrie, maybe not my favorite choice, obviously, to move up into the U23 squad, but I'm excited for Giselle Thompson. I think that with her performance right now with Portland Thorns hasn't quite put me at the edge of my seat. I think that she hasn't quite lived up to the expectation, especially with the injuries that they have and players that are missing right now. Sometimes her decision making, I'm like kind of scratching my head a little bit. And so I guess we'll see what she's going to do with the U23s. You never know.
Is there another player that you would have preferred to be called up instead of Moultrie?
For midfield? Because, I mean, we're talking about a midfielder coming in for an outside back. So that's a pretty tough decision. But if I'm going with the outside back position, I'm going with Savvy King here to move on up. She's performed with her new club, and she's been absolutely fantastic. She's quick. She's good 1v1 defending. She's been a really fun one. And obviously I'm biased because she's also a Tar Heel.
I like that. She is on the U23 camp, called in for this team coming into what they can do. I like the call for Savvy King, though, to maybe get a head up. I'm looking at Kennedy Fuller, though. This is a player that in the midfield, really young in the league, but she has done such a good job of establishing herself as a very big presence in the midfield for Angel City. So that's one that I think would have been a really good addition to this U23 squad. Get her some time in camp, bring her up, see how she competes with the senior national team, and give her a little bit of a mix. But this left back position is a big question mark. Both fullback positions.
You know what? I think that this U23 camp and just what we're seeing already, and I know rookie, but Lily Real, I think that she's somebody that's going to get a 1, 2, maybe 3-time look over to see, how confident she is, how seamlessly she could possibly try to hang with the first team after this camp. Again, way too early, but I think that she's got a lot of quality that, mold that fast and early. And you might have your next, again, probably I'd say behind Savvy King right now, but yeah.
Yeah, Savvy King, I think, has the edge over Real just in terms of left back because she's a natural left-footed player. And that does give her a little bit of a bump. We did a poll on YouTube with the left backs of this team and who people want. 53% of you voted for Crystal Dunn, 28% voted for Casey Kruger, 16% voted for Jenna Nighswonger, and 3% said, I don't want any of them.
Nighswonger not even getting minutes in the chat. Damn.
This is pretty rough. They want someone else, though. They want someone else.
Fair.
Good thing it's
me?
not up
Is
to
it me? No, I'm kidding.
to make these decisions. And Emma Hayes has put on the spot and under the pressure. Oh, gosh. This was a really fun conversation to take a look at these Americans abroad, how they're getting time. And the U.S. takes on Brazil on Saturday. We have a full U.S.-Brazil preview on Thursday of this week ahead of that match on Saturday. Don't go anywhere, guys. We've got a fun A3 mailbag for you coming up next. dong, mail's here. You like that, Christine?
Lisa, I love you and I only want my mail delivered this way. So can you speak to USPS because they're slacking?
Well, you know how A3 gets our mail delivered. It's a new Gmail. If you have questions for us, ask us all of them. And you can send us your questions attackingthirder@gmail.com. So it's attackingthirder@gmail.com. Let us know. We get so many great questions for you from you guys, for all of us. And now we get to answer them and have a blast with it. Let's dive into it and get a look at some of these questions. Question number 1, Gigsy 37. I'm going to guess it's Gigsy 37. It says, what do you think Gotham needs to do to score a goal? I mean, this is pretty vague, but I kind of like it, Christine. What does Gotham need to do? How do they find the back of the net?
Spoken like a defender. How do they find? I don't know. How do they? No, they've had this problem before, right? Like Juan Carlos Amaros has addressed this. I think this is the third consecutive season where they've had this problem with like final balls being clinical in the final third, shots on target. They're ripping shots. Granted, they're at the moon at your uncle in the stands. That they just head up, tip your chest forward, take a shot. No, that's overly simplifying it, but it's just a matter of I think the pathos of it is they're playing how Juan Carlos Amaros wants them to play, and his theory is the goals will come. But yeah, like I don't think that they're comfortable yet this season, and I don't think that they have really the fire. You know that Esther is good for getting her headers in, which I don't understand how she's so tiny. But like they need more than that. They need more than that, and I feel like nobody's really stepped up to be like that shooter shooting.
Agreed. They don't have someone that is just going to say, I'm going to score the goals for this team. Almost like an out and out 9. Esther is more of a playmaker. She's more like silky smooth on the ball
Get it done however you can. Yeah.
instead of a gritty poacher that's going to punch. Midge Purse coming back from injury is going to be a huge asset for Gotham, but they're not
Midge
there.
and Rose.
And
If when Rose is back, because she's a massive creative point, if only like the primary ignition point for them.
Right, but
And
she's not
so
going to score all the goals.
No, but she'll get them up there. I think that that's part of it too, is like a lot of those balls are idling in the midfield. They're not really getting them up and out. And when they do, it's just you're spraying them.
With Gotham and how they're playing this year, they are getting into their attacking end. They're having the moments to create shots, but through 3 games, only 1 goal. But their shots are so high. Their stat numbers are out shooting most of the teams that they're playing. But it comes down to shot selection for me. Is there one more pass? Is it too many passes, right? Can we hone in on when is the best time to test the keeper, get shots on target, right? A shot doesn't count if it's just a random shot. It has to be testing the goalkeeper, putting teams under pressure. There has to be follow-up. It's got to be frustrating if you're a Gotham fan watching this.
It's frustrating to watch sometimes too. To your point, Lisa, I was actively screaming, I think it was a couple games ago, where yes, you want to be able to be composed on the ball, right? And you want to be able to know when you need to recycle, change the point of attack. But sometimes I feel like it's a knee-jerk reaction where they're like overly doing so, where I'm like, forward, forward, push the ball out wide. Like I'm coaching at the TV, which I do a lot. I'm so sorry to anyone who's had to watch a game with me. But it's a lot of that, like having that instinctive, like know when to bite.
Mm-hmm. They have the roster to do it. It's getting some players back from injury, giving it a little more time. Question number 2. This one comes at us from M3KGT. I don't know. But if you could choose one to be on your team, Barbara Banda or Temwa Chawinga?
You first, Lisa.
Okay.
I feel like they're asking me to kill my children. Like I want to hang out with both of them.
Hard. Okay, I am gonna go with Barbara Banda. She's gonna be my pick because of how she sets up other players so well around her. And Chawinga has made incredible strides in her career. And this season specifically, we are seeing another level from Chawinga. But Barbara Banda, to me, is an out and out footballer. And that's, if I was building a team, I would want to play really beautiful football. I would want to have great passing and connection and creativity and a lot of fluidity. And Banda gives you that. Whereas Chawinga is unstoppable in her own right, but Banda is more of a footballer than Chawinga. So I'm going to go with Banda. I would love to play with Banda, but also I would never want to play against Chawinga.
As a defender, like, girl, what did you just choose?
It's pretty terrible, actually. Both of them. Can I pick both? No, it says we can only choose one. And I'm going to
So, you know what? I'm not going to split the baby. I would love to sing my Banda theme song to Banda. However, I'm going to go Chawinga because based on how I know I can play, I'm not a shooter. I can send in nice crosses and find the people who can shoot really well. That becomes your main strength when you aren't great on the dribble either. You're like, well, I'm fast, but like off the ball. What do you want me to do? Yeah, I'm going Chawinga easily. Like, let her score the goals and have the glory, and then I want to slide in and like help her celebrate.
Yeah, you got to teach her some sellies. We're
I
still
could do that.
off the mark there, Lo. Come
I
on, Lo
know.
LaBonta. All right, question number 3. This one comes at us from Millie Tice. And the question is, which teams do you think have the best locker room hype playlist? Yes, Christine. Who do you
Ooh.
want to be in the locker room with pregame because of their playlist?
Spirit, Washington Spirit. I think they get lit in there. First of all, I know that Trinity's got to have a playlist. Okay, Uno. I feel like they've got enough sazon in there where I know they're probably getting hip hop, which is like my bread and butter. You know, they're listening to Taylor Swift. Tip of the cap to you, Lisa. But also maybe some reggaeton in there. Like, I feel like, yes,
They have a good
yes.
mix. I'll give them
Stuff to be
that.
like, hey, Lacey Santos, what are we listening to? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm Washington Spirit.
I'm going to go Kansas City Current. I think that this team just has so much fun. And I know the question is about the playlist, but the players make the playlist. And this is a fun group that is just having a fantastic time together. They've got a pretty good mix of some Brazilians on the roster now. I think Lo could bring some good music into the mix. They've got a good variety of some veteran players and some younger players. So we're going to get a good range of really current music and maybe some oldies, but some goodies. So I'm going to go Kansas City with that one. How do you think?
I feel like that's no, I do like that because in my head I was like, yo, I could hit up KC or Orlando, but it's largely because I feel like again, like, gotta get down with the Brazilians. Like, we can samba. We can, like, let's go
all
like,
day.
Are you kidding?
In the locker room with the Brazilians at Orlando? Yes, please.
Honestly, bucket list item. Orlando, call us. We're available.
Next question. This one comes at us from Fox in the Box 3000. What a fun name. Is it better if U.S. women's national team players play together or against each other domestically versus being split up with some players overseas? Interesting one. Christine, you want to take this?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna say it's neither. I think that it brings a certain quality because they're both playing different styles that add to them as a whole. I don't think that either league negates or subtracts, adds anything that, maybe they didn't come with originally. Most of the players, if not all of the players over abroad, have played in NWSL. They know about the athleticism, the physicality. What they're picking up abroad is probably more of that like footballing mentality, the careful passing, stringing out the back. It's just adding to them. I don't think that either one are more benefited by being in either place or together or separate. I think that they complement each other.
Just in time to answer this question, Jess is back. Hey, Jess.
Hello.
Hey.
Okay, so is it better if U.S. women's national team players play with and against each other domestically versus being split up overseas?
See, I'm with Cupo 100% on this one, simply because I think that playing overseas, and I tell this to a lot of my mentees, a lot of girls who I mentor, if you have the chance to go and play overseas to add a little bit of soccer savviness into your back pocket, I'd say go, just because the styles are so different worldwide, no matter where you're playing. If you can add a little, if you're going to go and play in, let's say, Spain, you can add a little bit of a Spanish type style to your soccer, and that's playing in tight spaces and things like that. And so playing at the international level, you're able to adjust to the game.
Mhm.
That's the best part about it. So I think it's just adding so much more repetitions of different types of football to have in your back pocket. So I'm all for it. So it doesn't really matter, to be honest. It doesn't make that big of a difference.
I agree completely. If I had to put value on it, though, I would say that having the relationships and playing with people domestically to then translate internationally doesn't hold as much weight as playing in a different style, a different league with a variety of different players has, because that rhythm and that partnership can come pretty quickly, right? Like once you're in camp and in camp consistently, you can get back to that rhythm. But the value of playing with different styles of people and players in league holds more weight to me, especially at the international level, because you're going to go play against international teams that aren't necessarily just in your domestic league. Question number 5. This one comes from Patrice Camilla. Which player has the most to gain from this U.S. women's national team window in April? So I'm taking this as it could be senior national team or a U23 player. But Jess, which player has the most to gain?
I will have to go with Michelle Cooper. And one of my main reasons is because I had the honor of training with her this offseason a lot, and just seeing her game grow in the middle of the offseason. The public doesn't see what we do as pro athletes in the offseason when no one's watching. Oh, I got to watch. And I'm like, she's going to do fantastic this season. I was very excited to watch her play. And now she's got a couple goals in her bag. She's got a couple assists in her bag. Now you can see an even more incredible partnership between her and Chawinga. Oh, I'll assist you. Oh, I'll assist you on this one now. And so just seeing her game grow just in this offseason was nothing short of amazing. She got her first cap with her first goal to top it off in the She Believes Cup. And so I can't wait to see what Emma Hayes has in her mind as to being able to help grow Michelle Cooper's game, because we saw last year, the year before that, when she first came into the league, she was playing out wide a lot. She was just out wide. She just stayed out there. Now you see her coming into the half spaces, into the inside pockets. So she's definitely elevating her game. And so I absolutely love to see it. So she's my target to watch on this U.S. Women's National Team.
Cooper is so my style of player. Like, I love that she's a baller, but I have an affinity for those like hard tackling, do not play with me, knuckle up players. And we are lacking that on the US women's team right now. And she is it. So, like, yeah. Also, she seems like, I don't have the honor of knowing her personally, but she seems like she's super fun. So that like adds to the like, yeah, I'm rooting for her.
Yeah,
There's
she's
another
great.
confidence level that we're seeing from Cooper. I got to talk to her, and she mentioned how coming out of Duke, she was playing as a number 9, and she only played 2 years in college. So this is her 3rd professional season. We've seen her more as a professional than we have in her college days. And she also kind of framed it in her own mind as this would be my rookie season. So I have 2 years under my belt that other rookies, that her age players don't have in the league, that she has professionally. How can she use that to her advantage? And we're seeing it every day on the pitch, leaning into her physicality, and getting these call-ups and making the most of them. So with the players that have so much to gain in this window, I think it's across the front line. You guys, I'm going to give you both Michelle Cooper. I'm going to go Ashley Hatch. She can be an out-and-out 9, a goal scorer. She is someone that has been at the international level before, come out of favor a little bit, not getting called up for almost a year. Now she's back in it. She's scoring goals consistently in a variety of ways with Washington Spirit. Now is her time to bring that to the next level with Emma Hayes and make herself so valuable in this front line for the U.S. So
I totally
rooting for
agree.
that.
I feel like in my head it was Cooper, it's Ashley Hatch, and it's Fallon Tullis-Joyce. I feel like, you know what? Like, she needs to finally get the opportunity, and she needs to show Emma Hayes that some of those deficiencies that Emma had talked about a couple camps ago, that she was like, she knows what she has to work on, have either been eradicated, judged, fixed, or otherwise, where she can get minutes with this US women's national team, that she could potentially be a starter, because she has played her ass off for United in ways that you had never seen her perform before. So she deserves that shout.
All right, last question. This one comes from Millie the Adventurer. I love this question. Which free agent signing has had the biggest impact in NWSL, Jess?
I love and hate this question so much because
It makes you think.
It does, because there are so many players, and I can name literally like 7 on top of my head. Of course, Dabinia, Marta, Morgan Gautrat, she's performing now that she's been healthy consistently. But I'll shake things up a little bit, because we spoke about this before. Like, should it be a player who went to a different team? And I'll stick with that. I'll go with a player who isn't spoken about too much, who had an impact on her last club and now has a huge impact right now with her new club. And that I'm going to go with Sheehan on this one. I've been enjoying watching her play for Houston Dash. She's one of those players that they've absolutely needed over the years. I mean, Houston Dash has always been that huge question mark of a club, simply because they have not been that successful. They've always had the talent, but just not getting it together. And so I think Fabrice has done just such an incredible job so far. 3 games in for Houston Dash. They just look like they're such a hard team to play against. And Sheehan is one of those reasons why, she has a couple assists under her belt. I think that, she is playing freely as well. You could tell when a player is having fun when they're playing, and Sheehan is that player for me right now.
Really good shout for Delaney Sheehan. I really like that one, Jess. We were talking about this before the episode. I was like, who are you going to pick? Can we do a free agent signing that just re-signed with their team? Like, hello, Temwa Chawinga. That's probably.
I'm like, am I cheating? I'd just be like, Marta. Marta is
easily.
My I know.
Signing.
Like,
she was top for me. Yeah.
We could have cheated.
I didn't want to go the short route. God, she was a free agent, right? If she's not, I'm cheating now for real. But like Yasmin Ryan to Houston.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a great get for them. We have a Houston team that are rebuilding, that again, they're still figuring things out, so I don't expect everyone to be firing on all pistons, but I think that she'll add a lot of quality in their attack. Smart player, on or off ball. Like, great get for Houston.
Yeah. Houston, picked up the most impactful free agents in the offseason. I think Danny Colaprico could also be thrown into that mix. But I'm going to take a left turn, actually a right turn, go a little bit north to the East Coast. Washington Spirit picking up Narumi in this offseason as a free agent has been so influential for how Jonathan Giraldes wants to play at Washington. And especially considering they're dealing with a couple of injuries in the midfield. She brings veteran leadership. She brings experience. She brings such a calmness on the ball for Washington. And this new style of 3-back that we're playing, she is just so solid in the midfield. They are allowed to play in a 3-back because Narumi is in the midfield. That's literally the reason why. And so you're seeing exactly the fruits of Jonathan Giraldes and his labor of why he wanted to bring her in and the mixes he wanted to do, especially with Bernal also being in that mix. Now, she's not a free agent, but it is because
that's the hard part. There's so many players that in your brain are like her, and you're like, she wasn't
not a free agent. So Narumi, that's my shout for this one. But I love that question, Millie the Adventurer, because you really made us think on it. This was fun. I love our mailbag segments. They are absolutely the best. So don't go anywhere, guys. We've got Lo LaBonta and McCall Zerboni joining us to close out this show. We'll be right back after this quick break.
To A3. I'm McCall Zerboni. We're here with the one and only Lo LaBonta. We love having y'all with us. Let's chat, people.
Hello. Oh my gosh. I would have to say this is probably our friendliest interaction we've had over the years of knowing each other.
I regret it. I wish always my whole career that we were teammates. I always thought about us in the midfield together doing our thing. And I was like, oh, that'd be so wicked. But, we just now get to expand it in a different capacity.
I would say if I were to go to Blacko tomorrow and be like, look, McCall's looking for a team. Do we have room on the roster? He would make room for you.
That's sweet to know, but girly, I'm so donezo. It feels so good to be sitting down on my tush right now, talking football instead. So
That's amazing. As long as you're in a good place, but no, there's always home space for you here.
thank you. Mad love for that. Mad love. So let's talk chip on the shoulder. I love this little concept that we've come up with. It can go in so many ways, but what players out there right now have a chip on their shoulder because they're playing against their old team and they now get to showcase their talents from the other side? And what are all those feelings? What creates that chip on your shoulder? Like, what can you speak to on that, Lo?
Oh, well, I've literally always played with a chip on my shoulder. That's what happens when you're 5'0". You just had to have that extra edge
True.
because, yes, I remember when I was younger, I literally had a coach. It was like youth sport, and the coach was like, "Is the grass tickling your nose?" And I was like, "The disrespect." But that's just what it is. And so, I've had to create my own kind of superpower in being so small, and that is the chip on my shoulder, my intensity, my aggressiveness, and no one can ever take that away from me. And so when you kind of talk about it in the league, we know the players that play when you just watch the game, the ones with the chips on their shoulder. And for me on my team, one that's always had it is Michelle Cooper. And she's the one that initiates our press. She's going to fight for every ball. And to be honest, I think that's how she got on the national team and has been called in consistently now, because she just plays with that intensity. Because you look statistically, she doesn't have all the goals and assists. This year, yes, she's starting it, but she's starting to peak now. And I think that is why she consistently gets called in. Honestly, probably our whole team in general has the chip because, we lost. We were disappointed last year. And now this year, we have to carry that with us always. But I mean, you're a prime example as well. Like, you were the definition of, I'm going to conquer this. I don't care the size of you. I'm going up against you. I'm going to win every single ball.
Look, it's motivation, right? We're essentially talking about motivation. Whatever drives you to have more fire and power inside of you. And I feel like, yes, that does happen a lot in our league, from teams leaving other teams and coming to have a point to prove, whether it was in a trade or a choice. Doesn't matter. You're playing against your old squad. You want to go out there and be like, see what you're missing now? That's the kind of attitude. So, I mean, even one of the recent players on KC is probably Haley Hopkins, right? She just, recently came from North Carolina Courage, and I just love what she's adding to Kansas City, and she brings a different element. And, you, especially as a 9, because you're going to get fouled, you're going to get beasted. Like, as a center forward, you're going to have to take so much because they're going to come after you too. So that's a good one to think about as well.
Haley Hopkins also slide tackles and rondos sometimes. And I'm like, girl, she showed up and did it. And I was like, oh, that's her standard. Let's go. Play the ball quicker or she's going to come get your ankles. And I'm like, I love that, as long as it's not against me. But I love it, Even if you do it to me, as long as you're doing it in the game as well, I'm a fan. And that's what I think. To be on Kansas City, you have to have that bite. If you don't have it, you're probably not going to like it here, survive here. Look at Dabinia, for example. One of the best, if not the best players on the ball, is tracking back and picking out balls defensively. And that is just the standard here. She can go forward, score all these goals, but if you don't get behind the ball with us defensively, you're probably not going to play here. So that's standard. That's what we love. That's our expectations here. And I think, it just shows in our style of play. And just when teams come to us in our home stadium, you got to be ready for it because it's coming no matter what.
I want to lean on that point too, because I think it has a lot to do with whether you're home or away. Like, are you returning back to your old stadium in front of your old fans? Like, that gets a little more feely too, and possibly puts a little bit more of a chip on your shoulder. So, like now we're thinking about, okay, so like the Dash. So they had 3 players go there. 2 only had the chance to play with Yasmin Ryan and Delaney Sheehan, but you can see the fire in their eyes when they played Gotham this last week. They just like had a whole nother level that they were bringing. I mean, Delaney was like bouncing players off her in the midfielder, just like knocking them down. Like, no, I don't care what's happening right now. You're not taking me down. This is my old team. I'm going to show how much a better place I'm in and how strong I am now, So it just kind of gives you that extra tip. And it was absolutely obvious with those couple.
I completely agree. And especially, I think too, I've always noticed this from Yasmin Ryan when she was on Portland, when she went to Gotham and now Houston. She has that bite. She's not afraid to hit someone. And then Delaney Sheehan is backing her up on it. I think, they've always had it, but I agree with you. This past weekend, there was a little extra there, and I'm all for it. It's a part of the game. And that's what I love. And we don't need to create storylines or anything because it is so common. Like, it's not a one-off. Like, this is them. This is what they do. People just see their passes and their goals, but this is a part of their game. And this is why sometimes I line up against them and I'm like, oh, all right, let's go. It's going to be in battle today.
So now I'm thinking if I was a coach, this might be a hack. Like, go after players that you can take from other clubs that feel some type of way about it. And then when they come to your club, they're going to be like that extra level, Start scouting that way. Come on.
100%. You know what's crazy is, you were in the league for a while too. And you know how each week you go over scout for the team that you're about to play up against. And a new coach comes in and you're like, don't worry, bro. I got this because I know how that player plays, what their strong foot is, what their tendencies are. But you're like, okay, we have to go through this for the new players. But I'm just like, at times, I'm like, coaches, just be like player managers. Like, we can relay to our players the information, what you need to know. And that just comes with experience.
But that's exactly why they're called managers overseas, right? Like, that is your job. You need to manage all the personalities, all the players, all the talent and the gifts on that team. You need to figure out how to put all these pieces in the puzzle in the right way, and rotate them. If you're not doing that, then a bad energy in your group and some players aren't believing in the system. So, I do not envy coaches at all. It's a way harder job than people realize sometimes.
Wait, how many people, now that you're done playing, have been like, are you going to coach?
How many times have I said absolutely not over my dead body? Like, I don't know. That is one thing that is not going down for me. And do you want to know why? If anything else, I want to get back to a more like regular lifestyle. And coaches do everything that players do and more. They're there 3 hours before us. They're there 5 hours after us. They're working from home. I'm like, that is wild. I'm trying to see my family at teams more.
Yeah, could it be me? Like, respect it, appreciate it. Not for me at all.
Very much so. All right. So I do want to chat about the U.S. Women's National Team roster a little bit. So what are your feels on it? Who do you think is missing that deserves to be there? And who would you like to eventually see there? And how do you think they're going to do?
I feel like, this is such a different conversation now when it comes to U.S. Women's National Team roster because, it's not leading into a big tournament. And what I appreciate so much is that Emma is giving all these opportunities to younger players to try and develop them. And what I love is that there are so many that were on that She Believes roster and she brought into this camp as well because technically they failed, right? They didn't win the She Believes Cup, but she is believing in them and bringing them to this next roster to develop them. I did not have that. I did not have that plan. That came out of nowhere. I swear to you. But I love that because, for example, my young teammates, they were so Claire Hutton, Michelle Cooper were in the futures camps the first week of January, then get called up to the full national team. And now again, and that just already shows they were able to learn, and she was going to help them develop in that pool and hopefully, you know, eventually get to the next big tournament they have. I am so excited to see how the youth continue to compete on the international stage, and what better test than against Brazil. Again, going against the keeper of Kansas City Current on that squad. We've already talked about it in the locker room. I love that little friendly rivalry because they already have said once we cross that line, we're not teammates anymore. And I was like, my girls, mama's proud over here. Mama's proud.
I mean, I'm going to take a sec. Lo, baby, you should be there. At least get a look. I'm rooting for you. Straight up and down. Amen. It's going to happen.
So much. Oh,
Yeah.
don't hold your
But
breath.
aside from you missing, it was obvious for me, Emma Sears. I mean, I think, you know, she brings an element that can be very valuable on the global stage, but also thinking about it, you know, she's not a number 9 at all. And a lot of those players that got called in are wingers. So it's just adding another winger by adding her, you know, and I also wonder who's going to be our number 9. Are we going to see Hatch do that for the United States like this upcoming month? You know, because a lot of them are just have that same, you know, outside channels winger mentality that are called into this camp. So I'm anxious to see what kind of formation and what Emma Sears does with that. And also goalkeeper wise, Aubrey Bledsoe or Casey Murphy, I can't even believe they're not even considered number 2s or wanting to get looks at. That kind of shocked me.
That 100% I will absolutely agree with you on. Again, Haley Hopkins in my locker room, and they were about to release the roster, and she was like, if Casey Murphy doesn't get called in, I was like, bro, I completely agree with you. I bet the league completely agrees with you. But again, we don't know what Emma is thinking at all. And that's why it's so interesting, because there's certain coaches that have been on the national team that I've met and had conversations with. So I know kind of how they think. I don't even think Emma knows my name. Like, we know nothing about each other. I don't know what she's doing. And so I can't speak for her, but I can speak for a lot of players in this league where we think Casey should be called back in, Aubrey should be called back in, because when you perform in the league, you should absolutely be given a chance on the national team. It's not just about names or anything. It's, are they putting out the performance? Are they playing all the minutes for their club? Can they perform then on the national team level? And they need to be given that opportunity. If not, at least you gave it a chance. See you next time. But, you know, I consistently see players do so well and just not get in. And that's what hurts, because what are you fighting for? What are you competing for as a player? We want the win at the end of the weekend, but to represent your country is such a huge honor that some of these people need to still be given that opportunity.
Definitely. I mean, at least give them a look. You know, there's some players that play really, really well on the bigger stage or around better players or just in a different system that necessarily maybe they're not getting with club. But I will say, Emma Hayes sees you. We all see you. Lo, we got you.
Like I say, I said from the start of this was about to be therapy, and I needed that. Thank you.
Okay, but also Jenna Nighswonger, I've got to bring it up. You know, I want to see her in these camps. And, you know, it's difficult, especially for NWSL fans. Not all of them watch the overseas games. So we really don't know what form she's in. We really don't know how she's doing. But the whole idea of her going overseas into another league was challenging herself in a different way to reach another level of her career, of her form. And maybe she's not hitting it now, but hopefully it will start serving her at Arsenal, because I do want to see her back in those national team camps for sure.
Yeah, I would love for them to speak about that in camp with Emily, for example. Just be like, hey, how's she doing on the team? What's the vibes? Is she missing you guys? Does she want to still be with the club and develop there? You know, there's always those conversations, and I don't know if Emily will reveal anything, but I would love to see how she's doing over there mentally, physically.
You're so like that. You're the people's people. I love that about you.
Love wins, bro.
We will be right back later.
Welcome back to Attacking Third. So fun to hear from Lo LaBonta and McCall Zerboni. Thanks, ladies, for hanging with us. That does it for our show today. It was a good one, guys. Christine, you have any final thoughts for the people before we send them out into the world and we see them again on Thursday?
Yeah, I think I don't know. In retrospect, maybe I have lived with a chip on my shoulder, and that's been my kind of like petty forward momentum. I don't know, but I'll take it. I think maybe we channel all of it and move forward together. Why not? Right? Is that positive reinforcement?
Oh, it
I'm
absolutely
sure.
is. When you have a chip on your shoulder, that's pressure. And Billie Jean King said it best. This is one of my favorite quotes. I think I've said it on every platform
Ooh,
I've
give
ever
it.
been on. Pressure is a privilege. So having a chip on your shoulder and you're under that type of pressure, I mean, if you can perform with a chip on your shoulder, that's cherry on top. That lets you know your level of professionalism as a pro athlete. And there's nothing better than that.
Well, from
We performing, baby. We performing.
Oh,
exactly.
absolutely.
And outside of, winning the World Cup, multiple NWSL championships, shields,
Who's done that?
records, it's the pressure to be on A3 every day that Jess really rises to the occasion. That's when we know. That's when we know. Guys, thanks so much for hanging with us today. It is always a blast. We'll be back on Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern, live on YouTube. You can watch us on the Golazo Network. And of course, listen anywhere you get your podcast. U.S. Women's National Team is in action on Saturday. So Thursday's episode is a full USA Brazil preview. We're going to break it all down for you. Thanks for hanging with us. For Mark, Jess, Christine, I'm Lisa. This was Attacking Third.